First things first, let's talk about Texas. Um, the Alabama-Texas game was incredible. When I talked about the Texas game, as with most games that I have discussed that are road games, the Arkansas game and some others, I give what I think my general prediction is based on what the layout previously has been with these away teams. But then I always say what I think is a possibility if Alabama plays to its potential. And there's no better way to show it than this one, right? Texas had shown over and over and over again against every other team that they had played at home, especially in the SEC, that they had the ability to stick with everybody, right? Their largest loss at home had been 8 points. They had played Auburn and Tennessee both to less than 5. And all of the metrics really pointed to maybe Texas could keep this a close game. As we know, like Alabama had given up, had some of the best shooters on a certain team, had given up a decent number of points. And even in this game, Trey Johnson has 24. The SEC's leading scorer gets over his average. It all is leading into maybe Texas can keep it close. But that's to say, if Alabama plays this level of offense that they played in this game, nobody's going to play with them, and I'm including Auburn in that. Alabama will beat anyone in the country if they shoot and perform to the level that they did on Tuesday night. Alabama shot a performance in the SEC 16 guys, Southeastern 16 guys found this. There have been Alabama shot over 60% from the field, over 50% from three, and over 90% from the line, and scored over 100 points on the road. That has not happened in over 15 years, right? So we're not even saying from an Alabama perspective, we're saying in college basketball that stat hasn't happened in 15 years. Simply put, Alabama was incredible. They put up a 1.43 on offense. When we talk about offensive efficiency numbers, typically you're looking at anything over a 1.0 is good, anything over a 1.1 is really good, and anything over a 1.2 is elite. A 1.4 is just unfathomable. Absolutely phenomenal. And when you see that Alabama puts up a 1.43 and still turn the ball over 17 times, that's where you see that this was just an offensive performance for the ages. Were there some things that have to be cleaned up? Those turnovers we just talked about and maybe a couple other things? Sure, yeah. I don't think that Alabama played a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. But even all of those things included, if Alabama shoots at the level that they did and runs the efficiency on offense that they did, they can play with anyone. They have the talent, they have the depth, and in this game, you just saw everyone clicking. The easiest way to put this is if you look at a three-point shooting perspective. The worst three-point shooter in this game for Alabama was Chris Youngblood and Mark Sears. Youngblood shot 33%, Mark Sears shot 40%, and they were the worst three-point shooters on the team. The efficiency numbers and how well everyone shot was just off the charts. So let's, there's some people that we have to discuss, right? I think we're going to start at the top of the Alabama list with actually KenPom gave him the game MVP. And I thought that he had his best game in an Alabama uniform. I'm going to say with the exception of the Clemson game, I know that technically this is his highest scoring output, but I'm still going to give the Clemson game to take us to the Final Four as a little bit of a leg up. But Jaren Stevenson, a lot has been said about Jaren Stevenson. There's been people calling for him not to start. Hey, maybe you should never shoot a three again. There's been a lot of different things said about Jaren Stevenson. And simply put, he played incredibly. Jaren Stevenson goes for 22 points, 3 for 3 from inside the arc, 4 for 5 from outside the arc, 4 for 4 from the line, 22 points, has a block shot, and just was the Jaren Stevenson that you hear Nate rave about. As I've talked about on this show, Jaren is somebody that his defense has, kept him in that starting lineup for a lion's share of this season. He's somebody that's been in the starting lineup a lot, and it's largely due to that 6'11 frame and what he does on defense. But this is a game and an output that you see out of Jaren. I think a lot of it goes back to his aggressiveness. We talked about that on the defensive end, but Nate's had some conversations with him about being more aggressive. And I think on the defensive and offensive end, when he's playing a little bit more aggressive and losing himself in the game, he's a better player. Can you expect this out of him every night? Absolutely not. I wouldn't expect this kind of output out of anyone every night. But, he has that capability. He has the ability to knock down the threes, especially, if somebody leaves him open, if Alabama's hitting him in the pocket, and he has the ability to put the ball on the floor and score at will. And, so props to him. This is, like I said, I thought that this was one of his best games in an Alabama uniform. It's between this and the Clemson game to send us to the Final Four as to his best ever, but just awesome to see that out of him. Another guy that I think you have to talk about when you talk about this is LeBaron Philon. LeBaron Philon, is coming back from the injury, so he had not played the best over the past couple of games. And LeBaron plays very well in this game. And I think it's really big that you see guys like LeBaron and Aiden play so good in this game because, as you know, with Auburn coming on deck, both of these guys, Aiden played for them. LeBaron was committed to them. So it is a situation where you're kind of getting these guys back on track before what's going to be a highly anticipated game for LeBaron and Aiden at a minimum, not just the whole team. But they're going to have a little extra juice having previously committed and knowing that team pretty intimately. Philon goes 3 of 5 from 3, 3 of 5 from the field, has 6 rebounds, has 4 assists, has a fairly good game, right? And it's his best game. He has 15 points, and it's his best game that he's had coming back from the injury over the past couple of weeks, right? In this game, we did not have Darian Reed. It seems like he's going to be a game-time decision probably for that Auburn game. It would be great to have him. I am not sure of his status, right? But this is another game in which Darian Reed did not play. Nate has said that the plan is to keep him out until he is ready. I don't know if it's a break glass in case of emergency against Auburn. I'm not sure as to what that's going to look like. But in this game, Reed did not play again. 2 other guys that I think just need to be mentioned to kind of wrap up this Texas game, and then we'll give a few last thoughts, is Aden Holloway, which we just talked about, and then Mo Diabate. If you're looking at Aden Holloway, he has 18 points, 3 of 6 from the field or from 3. But the big thing is he has 6 rebounds. And Aden actually led us in defensive rebounding. And it's something that, if you're getting Aden to help you on the glass at the level he is, the benefit to that is how quick he is with the ball in his hands. And so he can start that fast break. And, he's a big reason why Alabama is number 1 in tempo. I think he does an extra change of pace. I know Mark does well at getting the pace moving quicker, but also when Aiden's on the floor, he just has that extra gear and does a great job pushing the pace. So when he's able to get on the glass at the level he is, A, he's able to push the pace, but then B, it gets us moving in transition, which can get him those open threes, right? He shoots 50% from 3. We've grown accustomed to seeing that from Aden, especially if he's open. If he's open, I'm expecting that shot to go in every time. He had an absolutely insane kind of back and forth step back against Shedrick that was just nasty in this game. He really feels like he's playing open, playing free, and it's great to see it. We're going to want to see that against Auburn as well. They know him well, but I think he's playing a little bit different game than what they may have seen out of him just due to the style of offense that Bruce had him in. So we will see what happens in this next game. And then finally, I could not go without saying Mo Diabate. And funny enough, typically when I talk about Mo Diabate, I'm looking at him from a defensive perspective. And of course, Mo Diabate had a pretty good defensive game. I don't want to say he didn't. However, in this game, the big thing with Mo Diabate is he goes 3 for 3 from 3. When we talk about Mo Diabate, he's somebody that has worked on his three-point shot, but is somebody that, admittedly, Nate Oates has said early in the season he's not somebody that probably is going to have a ton of games or he's going to have more three-point attempts than he has offensive rebounds or than he has rebounds. Mo actually only has 1 rebound in this game and 3 threes. Obviously, he was making them. He was wide open. And Nate's more than happy to have him shoot a shrink 3. And when he's hitting them, of course, take another one. But this is a situation where, when Mo is hitting shots like that and when the offense is moving like that, there is a level where it feels like Alabama's kind of untouchable. Because Mo and like a Aiden Sherrill, those are people that, especially with Mo, that you're not expecting to hit the 3. And so when they do, and when they're able to take it and hit it, it's kind of a situation where it gives you that other option, and it allows the offense or the defense to have to spread out to a guy who's not considered always a shooter, right? In this game, by the end, Texas was having to fully come out on Mo because he's 3 for 3. Like, you can't leave him open. And so that even does better from a spacing perspective because typically, not saying they fully sag off of Mo, but it is one that they're not fully expecting to be able to shoot and make the 3. So the more that he makes his 3, the better it makes the offense because everyone else has to shrink down on him. He also is obviously pulling more of the pressure. And then you get the situation where, obviously just the standpoint of he made the 3, right? Since he made the shot, it also brings the offense with it of, hey, I made the shot. And so that's what all happened in this game. Like I said, I don't want to belabor this point, but simply put, Alabama was incredible. Did they have some problems? Sure. Alabama definitely had some turnover problems at times. Cliff Amore had some turnovers. Philon had some turnovers. Mo D had some turnovers. Mark Sears had some turnovers. That has to be cleaned up. Against Auburn, you can't turn the ball over 17 times. But we're going to see what happens in that game. I'm not going to, beat a dead horse at this point when we're talking about the Texas game because – Alabama was able to withstand those turnovers, and Alabama was able to win by 23 points. I think that they obviously need to clean them up going into this big game, but I think, sometimes Alabama gets a little sped up and a little they're doing a little bit of prediction on passing the ball where they think their teammate's going to go, and sometimes pass just goes out of bounds or whatever. And you've been seeing a lot more of that here recently. So I do think some of these can be cleaned up, of course. I think some of it also is just having the right guy handling the ball at a given moment, like the Cliff Amore and Mo Diabate ones felt like, hey, was this really the best person to be handling the ball at this given moment in the shot clock and with who's defending? And so that's something that I'm going to want to see cleaned up. But, I think it is something that Alabama can clean up, so I'm not super duper concerned about it. It's something that obviously we've talked about a little bit at length, and I hope that it gets better. But, for this specific game, I don't think that it's worth, just going over and over and over again. So that's what happened in this game. Alabama played a great game. Just an offensive output for the ages. And that is a game that Alabama needed, especially moving on to this Auburn game. Both teams were able to win in what were obvious trap game look-ahead spots. And thankfully, Alabama wins the game, and we move on to the Auburn game that's going to be happening on Saturday. So let's transition to that game.